The letter arrived on a Tuesday, slipped under Marcus Cole's apartment door like a thief in the night. It was unsigned, scrawled in sharp black ink, but the words burned into his soul. You can't hide forever. Come back. Claim what's yours. At 28, Marcus had spent a decade running from the shadow of his father's name, a name that once echoed through the marble halls of Washington, D.C., Senator Raymond Cole, the untouchable patriarch of Virginia's political dynasty. Marcus stood frozen in his cramped Baltimore apartment, the letter trembling in his hands. He hadn't spoken to his father in 10 years, not since the night he'd been caught kissing his high school boyfriend, Tyler, in the family's sprawling estate. The memory was a wound that never healed. His father's rage, his mother's silence, and the ultimatum, leave or be erased. Marcus chose to leave. Now, staring at the letter, he felt the past clawing him back. The words hinted at something bigger than a family feud, something tied to his father's Senate seat, a throne Marcus had once been groomed to inherit. He sank onto the couch, the city's hum fading as his mind raced. Why now? What did they want? And who was watching him closely enough to know where he lived? He glanced at the framed photo on his coffee table. Him and Jamal, his partner of 3 years, laughing at a music festival last summer. Jamal's warm smile, his steady presence, had been Marcus's anchor since they met at a community art gallery. But even Jamal didn't know the full weight of Marcus's past, how his family's rejection had carved a hollow space in him, or how he'd buried his dreams of public service to escape their judgment. The phone rang, snapping him back. It was Jamal, his voice bright through the speaker. You okay, babe? You sound off. Marcus hesitated, the letter still clutched in his hand. Just got some weird mail. I'll tell you when you get home. He hung up, heart pounding. The letter wasn't just a summons, it was a dare. Marcus's childhood had been a masterclass in privilege and pressure. Raised in Richmond, he'd been the golden son of Senator Raymond Cole, a conservative titan whose charm masked a ruthless ambition. Marcus was 16 when he realized he was gay, and 17 when his father caught him with Tyler in the garden gazebo. The fallout was brutal. Raymond didn't just disapprove, he saw Marcus's identity as a political liability, a stain on the Cole legacy. No son of mine will ruin this family, he'd roared, banishing Marcus to a distant boarding school. By 18, Marcus had cut ties entirely, choosing freedom over a life of lies. Now, at 28, he was a graphic designer, living quietly with Jamal in Baltimore, far from the political circus. But the letter changed everything. It wasn't just about his father. It mentioned the Senate seat, which meant power, legacy, and a chance to rewrite the story his family had tried to erase. Marcus's mind spun with possibilities. Was his father stepping down? Was the letter a trap? Or was it a call to reclaim what he'd been denied? He paced the apartment, the weight of his decision pressing down. Jamal would be home soon, and Marcus knew he couldn't keep this secret. But telling Jamal meant opening a door to a past he'd locked away, a past that could pull them both into a storm. The next morning, Marcus sat at their tiny kitchen table, the letter spread out before Jamal. Jamal, 29, with his warm brown skin and sharp wit, read it silently, his brow furrowing. This is intense, he said finally. Who sent this? And why now? Marcus shook his head. I don't know, but it's got to be someone who knows my family. Someone who knows what happened. Jamal leaned forward, his hand covering Marcus's. You don't have to do this alone. Whatever this is, we'll figure it out together. Marcus felt a rush of gratitude but also fear. Jamal was his safe harbor, but this fight, if he chose it, would drag them into a world of scrutiny and secrets. That afternoon, Marcus dug into his past. He scoured news articles online, piecing together the last decade of his father's career. Senator Cole was still a powerhouse, but rumors swirled about his health. whispers of a heart condition, a possible retirement. The Senate seat, a Virginia stronghold for decades, was suddenly in play. Marcus's pulse quickened. Was the letter a call to step into his father's shoes, or a warning to stay away? He found a clue in an old article, a mention of his father's chief of staff, Evelyn Harper, a cunning strategist who'd been with the Coles since Marcus was a kid. Evelyn knew everything, every secret, every deal. If anyone was behind the letter, it was her. Marcus's fingers hovered over his phone. Calling her would mean stepping back into the lion's den, but ignoring it might mean losing his chance forever. By evening, Marcus and Jamal sat on their balcony, the city lights flickering below. "If I do this," Marcus said, voice low, "it's not just about me. It's about us. My family, they'll come for you too." Jamal's eyes softened. "I'm not scared of them. I'm scared of you losing yourself to this." Marcus nodded, the letter's words echoing in his mind. "Claim what's yours." He made the call. Evelyn's voice was as sharp as he remembered. "Marcus," she said, no warmth in her tone. "I wondered when you'd surface." She didn't deny sending the letter. Instead, she offered a cryptic invitation. "Come to DC tomorrow. We need to talk." Marcus hung up, his heart a war drum. He looked at Jamal, who nodded silently. They were in this together, for better or worse. Tomorrow, Marcus would face the past he'd fled, and the future he'd never dared to dream. The drive to DC was a blur of autumn trees and nervous silence. Marcus gripped the steering wheel, Jamal in the passenger seat scrolling through news on his phone. "Your dad's trending," Jamal said, holding up an article about Senator Cole's latest speech. "He's dodging questions about his health. People are speculating." Marcus's jaw tightened. His father's silence had always been a weapon, but now it felt like a crack in the armor. They arrived at the coffee shop Evelyn had chosen, a nondescript spot near Capitol Hill, far from the Cole family's usual haunts. Marcus's stomach churned as they stepped inside. Evelyn Harper sat in a corner booth, her silver hair pulled back, her eyes scanning them like a hawk. At 55, she was as formidable as ever, her tailored blazer a stark contrast to the cozy shop. "Marcus," she said, standing. Her gaze flicked to Jamal, assessing. "And you must be?" "Jamal Carter," he answered, his tone steady but guarded. Marcus felt a surge of pride. Jamal wasn't here to be intimidated. Evelyn wasted no time. "Your father's stepping down," she said bluntly. "His heart's failing. The party needs a Cole to hold the seat. That's you." Marcus froze. The words were a punch, confirming what he'd suspected but wasn't ready to hear. His father, the indomitable Senator Cole, was mortal, and they wanted him to take his place. "Why me?" Marcus asked, voice low. "You know why I left. They made it clear I wasn't welcome." Evelyn leaned forward, her voice dropping. "Times have changed. The party's desperate. Your father's allies are fracturing, and a new face, a Cole, could unify them. But there's a catch." Her eyes hardened. "You'd need to play by their rules. No complications." Marcus's blood ran cold. Complications meant Jamal. It meant his truth, his life, his love. He glanced at Jamal, whose face was unreadable but tense. "And if I say no?" Marcus asked. Evelyn's smile was thin. "Then the seat goes to someone else. Someone who'll bury your father's legacy, and yours." The weight of her words settled like a storm cloud. Marcus had spent years building a life free from his family's control, but the Senate seat was more than a job. It was a chance to reshape the world they tried to silence him in. Yet the cost was clear: his authenticity, his relationship, his freedom. Jamal broke the silence. "What's the real game here, Evelyn? You don't just call up a guy you haven't seen in 10 years out of nostalgia." Evelyn's eyes narrowed, but she didn't flinch. "The party's polling. Voters want fresh blood, someone with a story. Marcus, you're the prodigal son. Estranged, wronged, but still a Cole. You could win, but only if you're willing to fight. Marcus's mind raced. Fight for what? A seat that came with strings attached? A family that had rejected him? Or a chance to prove he was more than their shame? They left the coffee shop, the air between them heavy. Outside, Jamal pulled Marcus close, his voice soft but firm. You don't owe them anything. But if you want this, I'm with you. All the way. Marcus's throat tightened. Jamal's support was everything, but the path ahead felt like a minefield. That night, they checked into a small DC hotel, too wired to drive back. Marcus lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying Evelyn's words. The party's desperation was his leverage, but it was also a trap. His father's legacy was a double-edged sword, prestige laced with poison. The next morning, Marcus called his sister, Lena, the only family member who'd stayed in touch, albeit secretly. At 32, Lena was a lawyer in Alexandria, navigating the Cole family's expectations with quiet defiance. Marcus, she said, her voice warm but cautious. Dad's worse than they're letting on. He's got months, maybe. The party's scrambling. Did you know about Evelyn's plan? Marcus asked. Lena hesitated. I suspected. She's been asking about you. Look, Marcus, I know what they did to you was wrong, but this could be your chance to take back what they stole. Marcus's chest ached. Lena had always been his ally, but even she didn't fully understand the cost of his exile. And if they try to control me again? He asked. Then you fight them, Lena said fiercely. You're not that scared kid anymore. You're stronger than they know. Her words lit a spark in Marcus. He wasn't just the son they'd cast out. He was a man who'd built a life, a love, a purpose. If he took this chance, it wouldn't be for his father. It would be for himself, and for every kid like him who'd been told their truth was a liability. By noon, Marcus and Jamal were back in the car, heading to a campaign office Evelyn had texted about. The building was a sleek, modern space buzzing with aides and volunteers. Evelyn greeted them, her demeanor all business. You're here. Good. We start now. Marcus took a deep breath, feeling Jamal's hand brush his. This was it, the first step into a world that had once broken him. But this time he wasn't alone. The campaign office was a whirlwind of ambition and adrenaline. Marcus felt like an outsider in a suit that fit too perfectly, his father's legacy looming like a ghost. Evelyn had thrust him into the deep end. Strategy meetings, donor calls, and a crash course in Virginia's political landscape. At 28, he was no stranger to hard work, but this was a different beast. A machine built on optics, alliances, and half-truths. Jamal, ever the pragmatist, took to the chaos with ease, charming volunteers and organizing data like he'd been born for it. You're a natural, Marcus teased one evening, watching Jamal rally a group of college interns. Jamal grinned. Just making sure your face gets on every lawn sign in Virginia. But beneath the momentum, tension simmered. Evelyn's rules were clear. Marcus's campaign had to project the Cole family's values: strength, tradition, unity. His sexuality was a topic she skirted, but her glances at Jamal said enough. Marcus felt the old wound reopen, the demand to hide who he was. One night, after a grueling day of photo ops, Marcus and Jamal slipped away to a quiet park near the office. The Potomac shimmered under the stars, and for a moment, they were just two men in love, not pawns in a political game. They're going to ask me to lie, Marcus said, his voice breaking, to pretend you're just my friend. Jamal's jaw tightened, but his hand found Marcus's. Then don't. You're running to change things, not to play their game. Marcus wanted to believe him, but the fear was real. Coming out as a candidate could tank his chances or worse, paint a target on Jamal. The next day, a bombshell dropped. A reporter from a local outlet cornered Marcus at a community event, her recorder gleaming like a weapon. "Mr. Cole, rumors are circulating about your personal life. Care to comment on your relationship status?" Marcus's heart stopped. He hadn't expected this so soon. Evelyn, hovering nearby, shot him a warning look. But Jamal's words echoed in his mind. Don't play their game. He took a breath. I'm in a committed relationship with someone I love. That's all you need to know. The reporter's eyes lit up, but Marcus walked away before she could press further. Evelyn was furious. You just handed them a headline, she hissed in the car. This isn't Baltimore. This is Virginia. Marcus met her gaze. If I'm doing this, I'm doing it my way. No lies. Evelyn's silence was deafening, but Marcus felt a weight lift. For the first time, he was claiming his truth on his terms. But the victory was short-lived. That night, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Back off, or we tell the world everything. Jamal saw the message first. Who's we? He asked, his voice steady but laced with worry. Marcus shook his head. Could be anyone. My father's enemies. His allies. Hell, maybe even him. The threat hung over them like a storm. Marcus knew his father's world was ruthless. Opponents dug up dirt. Allies leaked it. But this felt personal, like someone who knew his past intimately. He called Lena, who was now working quietly on his campaign, handling legal paperwork. You hear anything? He asked. Lena's voice was tight. There's chatter. Some of Dad's old guard don't want you near the seat. They're digging into your life. Both of you. Marcus's stomach dropped. Jamal. They know he's with you, Lena said. And they know he's not just a friend. The realization hit hard. This wasn't just about Marcus anymore. His choice to run was pulling Jamal into the crosshairs. That night, as they lay in their hotel bed, Marcus turned to Jamal. I can't let them hurt you, he whispered. Jamal propped himself up, his eyes fierce. I'm not fragile, Marcus. I chose this, whatever comes, we face it together. The next morning, Marcus made a decision. He called a press conference, ignoring Evelyn's protests. Standing before a small crowd of reporters, he spoke from the heart. My name is Marcus Cole. I'm running for Senate because I believe in a Virginia where everyone belongs, where no one has to hide who they are. I'm gay. I'm in love. And I'm here to fight for all of us. The room erupted. Cameras flashed, questions flew, but Marcus felt free. Jamal stood in the back, his smile a quiet anchor. For the first time, Marcus wasn't running from his past. He was running toward his future. But the anonymous texts didn't stop. Another came that night. You'll regret this. The town hall was packed, the air thick with anticipation and skepticism. Marcus stood at the podium, his hands steady despite the sweat prickling his neck. He'd just finished answering questions about healthcare when a man in the back stood, his voice sharp. Mr. Cole, how can voters trust you when you're openly defying your family's values? The room went silent. Marcus felt Jamal's gaze from the front row, grounding him. I'm not here to defy anyone, he said, his voice clear. I'm here to fight for a Virginia where every person's value is seen, not just the ones who fit a certain mold. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others whispering. Marcus knew he was walking a tightrope. His coming out had sparked a firestorm. Support from younger voters, backlash from his father's old base. The anonymous threats had intensified, each one more specific. We know where Jamal works. Step down or he pays. After the town hall, Marcus and Jamal slipped into a back room, away from the cameras. They're not just coming for me, Marcus said, his voice low. They're targeting you. Jamal's jaw clenched. Let them try. I'm not going anywhere. but Marcus saw the strain in his eyes. Jamal had taken leave from his job at the art gallery to join the campaign, but the threats were a reminder of the cost. Lena met them at the campaign office later, her laptop open to a string of emails. "I've been tracking the threats," she said. "They're coming from burner accounts, but the language, it's too familiar. Someone close to Dad's inner circle." Marcus's mind went to his father. Raymond Cole was still alive, still pulling strings from his hospital bed. Could he be orchestrating this? Or was it someone else, someone who saw Marcus as a threat to their own power? Evelyn, ever the strategist, had a different theory. "It's probably Grayson Holt," she said, naming a rival candidate backed by the party's old guard. "He's been sniffing around the seat for years. Your announcement gave him ammunition." Marcus didn't trust Evelyn completely. She was too loyal to his father's legacy. But her intel was solid. Grayson Holt was a slick, conservative lawyer with a knack for digging up dirt. If he was behind the threats, he'd stop at nothing to win. The campaign pushed forward, but the pressure was relentless. Marcus's days were a blur of speeches, debates, and dodging reporters' questions about his personal life. Jamal stayed by his side, organizing rallies and charming voters, but the threats were taking a toll. One night, Marcus found Jamal staring at his phone, his face pale. "What is it?" Marcus asked. Jamal hesitated, then showed him a photo, grainy but unmistakable. It was the two of them, kissing on their balcony in Baltimore, taken from a distance. The caption read, "Last warning." Marcus's blood boiled. This wasn't just politics, it was personal. Someone was watching them, violating their sanctuary. He called Lena, who promised to dig deeper, but the fear was real. "We need to go public," Jamal said. "Expose the threats. Show them we're not scared." Marcus hesitated. Going public could escalate things, but hiding felt like surrender. The next day, he called another press conference. Flanked by Jamal and Lena, he held up the photo. "This is who I am," he said, voice steady. "And these threats? They're not just against me. They're against every person who's ever been told to hide their truth. I'm not backing down." The room exploded with questions, but Marcus felt a surge of power. He wasn't just fighting for a seat. He was fighting for a world where love didn't come with a target. That night, Lena called with a breakthrough. "I traced one of the burner accounts," she said. "It's linked to an aide in Holt's campaign. But there's more. Dad's been meeting with Holt's team. I think he's involved." Marcus's heart sank. His father, even on his deathbed, was trying to control the game. The betrayal stung, but it also clarified things. This wasn't just about a seat. It was about breaking free from a legacy that had tried to erase him. Election night was a fever dream. Marcus stood backstage at the campaign headquarters, the roar of the crowd vibrating through the walls. Polls were neck and neck, and every second felt like an eternity. Jamal squeezed his hand, his presence a steady anchor. "Whatever happens," Jamal whispered, "you've already won." Marcus wanted to believe him, but the weight of the past months pressed hard. The threats had escalated until Lena's evidence pinned them to Grayson Holt's aide, who'd been arrested days before. The scandal had rocked Holt's campaign, but it also exposed Marcus's father's involvement. Raymond Cole, frail but calculating, had funneled money to Holt's team to sabotage his own son. The betrayal was a knife, but Marcus had turned it into fuel. He'd spent the final weeks campaigning harder, speaking at every small town, every community center, sharing his story with raw honesty. Voters responded, not just the young and progressive, but older conservatives who saw his courage and recognized his father's shadow. "You're not your father," one woman told him at a rally, her eyes kind. "You're better." Now, as the results trickled in, Marcus felt the tide turning. Lena rushed backstage, her face alight. "You're pulling ahead in Fairfax and Richmond. It's close, but it's yours." The call came at midnight. Marcus Cole was Virginia's new senator. The room erupted in cheers, but Marcus's eyes found Jamal's. They stepped onto the stage together, hands clasped, the crowd a sea of hope and defiance. Marcus's speech was short but fierce. This isn't just my victory. It's for everyone who's been told they don't belong. We're here, and we're not going anywhere. The crowd roared, but Marcus's heart was with Jamal, whose smile held a decade of shared dreams. They'd faced threats, betrayal, and a world that tried to tear them apart, but they'd emerged stronger. The next morning, Marcus visited his father. Raymond lay in a hospital bed, his face gaunt but his eyes still sharp. "You think you've won?" he rasped. "This world will chew you up." Marcus stood tall. "Maybe, but I'm not hiding anymore. And I'm not you." He walked out, leaving the past behind. In the weeks that followed, Marcus and Jamal settled into a new rhythm. The Senate was daunting, but Marcus dove in, championing bills for equality and justice. Jamal took a job with a DC nonprofit, his passion for art and community finding new purpose. They faced scrutiny, but their love was their shield. One quiet evening, they returned to the Potomac Park bench where their journey had begun. Marcus traced Jamal's hand with his thumb, the river reflecting the stars. "We did it," he said softly. Jamal smiled. "No, you did it. I just got to love you through it." Marcus laughed, pulling him close. The world hadn't changed overnight, but they had. And in that moment, under the endless sky, they knew they'd keep fighting. For love, for truth, for a future where no one had to hide. The Senate seat was his, but the real victory was theirs.